So this lecture is being recorded, and please allow me to share my screen. By the way, hindi pa kayo nakapag-screenshot na sila ng attendance, pwede na kayong mag-leave. Along the way, may biglang ring checking ng attendance. Tsaka naka-record dito yung mga nagli-leave ha. Recorded yung recorded yung klase natin. Kasasabi lang na tapos na yung checking of attendance, may mga nag-leave na. Okay. Naku po. Ayaw mo share. Medyo hindi ko nga lang naayos yung presentation ko. According to the flow of presentation on your book. But anyways, this is temporary. I will be adjusting it based on the order of presentation on your book. So lahat nakakuha na ng book, sabi nyo? Meron pa bang hindi?
Sir, ako po, sir, hindi pa.
Hindi pa rin
By
po
the
ako,
way,
sir.
you are required to have
Sir, ako
this.
po wala pa.
Sir, ako din po, hindi pa.
Okay lang, okay lang.
Pagluwas ko po, sir, bibili po ako.
Oo, requirement kasi may mga, ito na rin yung magsisilbing worksheet nyo. Dito na rin kayo sasagot. May mga question kasi dito. Dito na rin kayo sasagot. Tapos,
Sir, saan po kayo makakabili niyan?
sa school nyo mismo.
Sige po. Salamat po.
Sa school nyo mismo. And you can ask your classmate kung saan nila nabili. But this material I have with me was sent by your institution. Yan. Kaya, please excuse me if in case my flow of presentation does not follow your book. Pero next meeting, mag-adjust ako. Isusunod ko dito sa flow dito sa book, sa book nyo. Okay? So we have here a saying from Cressy, which states, and I quote, "If one understands the Cosa Nostra, he understands organized crime in the United States." And by the way, Cosa Nostra is an organized crime in the Sicily or the Sicilian Mafia. And you know how Sicilian Mafia operates? Mahirap silang kalabanin maski the government cannot beat them. Kasi kayang-kaya nilang impluwensyahan maski sino. Napakalaki na ng pera nila. Ganyan. So, ganyan din kahirap ang organized crime sa United States. That's according to Cressy. And even here in the Philippines, crime, we know for a fact that crime is a social phenomena. Hindi rin natin siya madadown to 0%. Meron at meron yan. So what we can only do is to at least reduce or prevent some of the crime and to solve the crime that had happened. So crime prevention, crime reduction, and crime solution. Meron pa tayo crime clearance na sinasabi. Pero yung crime clearance is yung parang dapat ma-identify natin yung perpetrator. Kung sino yung gumawa ng krimen. So let's start with chapter 1. criminology. Criminology is coined. The term criminology is coined by the Italian criminologist Raphael Garofalo. It originated from the word criminologia, criminologia in 1885. And in 1889, Paul Topinard developed the word criminologia into criminology. Yan. Excuse me. So we have here composite of two elements, the words criminal plus the word ology. So criminal pertains to offenders of crime, and ology or logy pertains to the word study. So means to say criminology means study of crimes and criminals. Literally, criminology means a systematic study of the criminals. That is, persons who break or offend the social or group law. So if someone break the law, it is a crime. And study of the crime pertains to criminology. So we have here the etymological definition of criminology. Criminology is from the Latin word crimen, which means accusation. Crimen, accusation. And Greek word logia. So Greek word logia. Crimen is Latin, logia is Greek word. Logia is the scientific approach to studying. Thus, criminologia is the scientific approach to studying criminal behavior. The term was coined in 1885 by Raphael Garofalo, an Italian law professor. So he is a law professor. Aside from he is a criminologist, he is also an Italian professor. Nakikita niyo ba pala yung PowerPoint presentation ko?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes
po.
po.
O, kasi
Yes
sa
po,
iba,
sir.
kasi sa iba, hindi lumilipat daw pala. So, yan. May nasabihin ka? O, nagalaw. Sige. So, we have here Edwin. Kindly mute your mic if you are not speaking para hindi maka-affect sa clearness ng audio natin. So, we have here Edwin H. Sutherland and Donald R. Cressy, which defined criminology, a body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomenon. So when we say crime is a social phenomena, it exists naturally in the community. Kaya na nasabi natin kanina, it cannot be zero. We cannot have a 0% crime in the society. Meron at merong crime in every community. Eloyd M.A. and Merrill F.E. stated that criminology is a scientific study of crimes and its treatment. So we have here lots of definition of criminology. Pati sa books nyo, marami rin. And we have now the classic definition of criminology according to Edwin Sutherland and Donald Cressy. Criminology is a body of knowledge regarding crime as a social phenomenon. Now, we have here three categories of criminology. This is otherwise known as three principal divisions of criminology by by Edwin Sutherland. So, criminology includes within its scope the process of making laws. So that's first. Who makes our law? Who makes our laws? It is our legislative body, the Congress and Senate. So sila yung tagagawa ng ating batas. Second division of criminology is the breaking of laws. And the third division of criminology is the reaction of the community and the court towards the breaking of laws. So, kuha nyo ba? First division of criminology is the making of laws. Who makes our laws? It is the legislative branch of government. Followed by, if laws were created, we have now certain individuals who violate that laws that were created. So, what will we now call that person who break the law? Pwedeng suspect, pwedeng offender, violator. Yan. Pagka nahatulan na siya, we can now call him, nahatulan na guilty, we can now call him a criminal. Tapos, after the breaking of law, we have now the reaction toward the breaking of law. So, in here, what is the reaction of the community? What is the reaction of the victim? What is the reaction of our law enforcement body, the government, with regards to the breaking of law? Are we not to file the appropriate case and make that violator liable for the offense he had created hanggang sa ma-penalize siya? So, yan ang ating reaction towards the breaking of laws. So, making of laws include the following. Law is passed because of the consensus of the will of the public. So, lahat tayo na nasa community ay nagpa-participate sa making of law. In what way? We are being represented by the Congress. Yan. So, in the Philippines, we have bicameral system of legislation. It is called bicameral because it is composed of two houses, the Senate and the House of the Representatives. So the first house is the upper house, which we call the Senate. So sila ang tagagawa ng batas. And the second house is the lower house, which we call the Representatives. These are composed of our congressmen. So sila yung mga representatives natin per province, yung mga congressmen natin. So we have three major divisions or branches in the government. First is the executive branch, vested on the office of the president. So ano ang trabaho ng executive branch of the government? They are the one who enforce and implement laws. Yan, they enforce laws, in short. What now? We now have the second branch of government, the legislative. cited and explained above, legislative is the maker of laws or the law-making body. Sila yung tagagawa ng batas. Composed again of our Senate and representatives. And the third branch of government is the judiciary. These are vested on the Supreme Court. It includes the courts. Yan, judiciary. And how about us, students? What is our participation? We are being represented by the legislative branch in making laws. Kumbaga, lahat tayo ay nire-represent ng ating law-making bodies. Why? Because the law, the proposed, is for the benefit of the community. So we have here the early laws worldwide setting. We have the Code of Hammurabi in Babylon from 1700s BC. Dito sa Code of Hammurabi, it states that an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Sabi niya dyan. So kung yung offender, mata ang tinanggal sa biktima niya, the penalty should also be mata, his eye. So kung kamay, yung tinanggal niya sa biktima niya, kamay din ang magiging kaparusahan niya. So tatanggalan din siya ng kamay. Next is the Mosaic Code of Israelites and 1200 BC before Christ, followed by the Draconian Code in Greece, 17th century, and Hindu Code of Manu in India, and the Quran. Quran is the Bible of the Muslims or the Islamic society, and at the same time, this serves as their law. So ito yung batas nila. Yung kung ano yung nakasulat sa Quran, sa Bible nila, this is now their law. We have the law of 12 tables of Romans from 451 to 450 before Christ. We also have the Sumerian Code of the Summers, 3500s BC, and the Law of Moses from 1500 BC to 1900s BC. In the Philippines, we have two sources of our law. Historically, we have the Maragtas Code of 1215. It is the oldest law of Panay Island. So kung ang tanong later on sa board exam nyo is what is the oldest law in the Philippines, tapos andyan si Maragtas Code, Kalanchaw Code, Revised Penal Code, Special Laws, the answer would be Maragtas Code. Followed by the Kalanchaw Code of 1433, Second Code of Criminal Justice. So, Kalanchaw Code amended Maragtas Code. Kalanchaw Code is the development of the Maragtas Code. So we have here breaking of laws. All violations of laws are violations of the will of the majority in the society. This is true because every individual were represented by our law-making bodies. Let's say, for example, in Benguet, I am being represented by the congressman. Tapos yung congressman, kung ano yung nakikita niyang problema dito sa province namin na gusto niyang gustong isabatas, yan, siya ang mag-i-propose dito sa Senate for reading, kung ilang reading yan. First reading, second reading, third reading, fourth reading, fifth reading. Pagka inaprubahan ng Presidente, means to say that law will take effect 15 days after resigning or after publishing. Yan. Violation of the provisions of the criminal laws are created by the public through representation. It's called crime. So, yung violation of all the laws created is now called crime. So, crime is an act or omission in violation of a criminal law. So, crime is a generic term, napakalawak na term. It applies to all act or omission in violation of criminal law. So, what are our bases of determining whether or not the violation is criminal law or crime or not? So, we have the revised penal code or the RPC. Any violation of the revised penal code is called felony. So, felony ang tawag dyan. Ngayon, aside from the revised penal code, we also have the what we call special laws. Special laws. So, what are under our special laws? One of the other function of special laws, it creates new law that are not stated in the revised penal code. So kung may mga batas na kailangan dito sa Pilipinas ngayon pero hindi nakasaad sa RPC, it will be created through special laws. And another is special laws amends obsolete laws in our revised penal code. So kung mayroong obsolete na batas sa revised penal code natin, i-amend ng special laws. So one example of our special law is our Republic Act 9165. Yan. What is RA 9165? The Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of nakalimutan ko kung anong taon. So yun, ang RA 9165. Yan yung reference ng ating kapulisan at ng PDEA in implementing drug laws. So, we have, under special laws, we have 4 sub-categories or sources. We have the acts, followed by the Republic Acts, or RAs. Yan. Parang yung nasabi ko kanina, RA 9165. Tapos, aside from Republic Acts, meron din tayong yung Batas Pambansa or BP. One example of BP is the Batas Pambansa bilang 22 or the Bouncing Check Law, wherein bouncing check law is violated if a certain person with a bank check issued a check in payment for a goods or services. Tapos later on, it was turned out that the check was unfunded. So tumalbog yung cheque, yun ang liability ng issuer of the check. Yun ang magiging harapin niyang criminal case. Violation of BP 22. Tapos, the fourth is our Presidential Decree or PD. One example of our PD is the PD 1866 or the law punishing illegal possession of firearms. Yan, firearms. So yan yung dyan nahuli si Robin Padilla noon. After shooting, dinala niya yung baril, tapos na-checkpoint siya, dala-dala yung baril, nahuli, nakulong. PD 1866. What now is act? Act is the outward movement tending to produce an effect. So, outward movement, galaw, as in movement talaga siya, which tend to produce act. So, crime is is an act in violation of a criminal law. And also, crime is also an omission in violation of a criminal law commanding it. So when we say omission naman, omission is the non-performance of what is of what the law requires you to do. So let's say for example, the law requires us to pay our taxes, di ba? Pero hindi tayo nagbabayad. So tax evasion ang tawag doon. The law requires us to participate as a witness. Hindi tayo nag-participate as witness. Ang tawag dyan is obstruction of justice. Diba? The law requires us to help an endangered person in an uninhabited place. So, merong nabiktima ng hold up sa an uninhabited place. So, when we say an uninhabited place, walang katao-tao doon. Napadaan ka, nakita mong sugatan, halos namamatay na, tapos di mo pa tinulungan. So, pati ikaw may criminal liability doon. Not necessarily about hold up, but your case would be abandonment of an endangered person in an uninhabited place. So, yan. Ang crime through act and crime through omission. Commission, by the way, crime through commission or crime through omission. When we say act, pertains to or synonymous with the word commission. Committed. So we have here the action of the society towards the breaking of laws. Society either reacts positively or negatively when someone commits a crime. However, seldom has the society reacted positively. It reacts negatively by imposing punishment on the lawbreaker. So whenever a crime was committed, we shall all react for the punishment of that lawbreaker. And phenomenon or phenomena is these are observable. When we say observable, we make use of our five senses to observe it. So what are our five senses? Sense of touch, sense of smell, a sense of sight sa mata, sense of hearing sa tenga, and sense of taste sa dila. And we also have our sixth sense. When talking about investigation, our sixth sense is intuition. Kumbaga, personal experience assessment. And the seventh sense would now be common sense. So the main question in criminology is this: what are the causes of crime? What causes crime? So we have here objectives of criminology. The development of a body of general and verified principles and of other types of knowledge regarding this process of law, crime, and its control and prevention, and the treatment of youthful offenders. So, from commission of crime hanggang sa penalizing of penalty of punishment of the perpetrator. Yan ang objective ng criminology. So, is criminology a science? Yes, of course, it is a science. But historically, there is a present a continuing argument whether criminology is a science or not. Edwin Sutherland and Donald Creasy, both American criminologists, argued that criminology is not a science, but it has hopes of becoming a science. However, George Wilker said that criminology cannot possibly become a science due to lack of universal proposition of crime, and scientific studies of criminal behavior is impossible. So that's according to George Wilker. So you ask yourself, how did criminology become a science? Criminology is a science in itself when applied to law enforcement and prevention of crimes under the following nature. So, science. We have here now the nature of criminology. Criminology is an applied science. Why? Because it deals with the study of the causes of crimes. It includes anthropometry. So what is anthropometry? Is it the study of ants? No. Anthropometry is the study of punishment introduced by Alphonse Bertillon. So anthropometry pertains to the body measurement. So let's say, for example, a skeleton was found, skeleton of an arm was found at the suspected crime scene. Nagnas na, yun lang ang na-recover, wala nang iba. So from that, through anthropometry, the approximate height and body build of the bone will be predicted. So, i-measure lang through Alphonse Bertillon's anthropometry yung height, length, pati yung bigat ng bone. Ma-assess na nila kung ano kaya yung height ng tao na yun nung buhay pa siya. So, the only downfall of anthropometry is when the offender or the subject is an identical twin. Just like the case of the West Brothers. West Brothers is an identical twin. It was Will West who created or who executed the crime, who committed the crime. However, it was William West, the offender's twin brother, who was arrested by the police. So, parehong-pareho sila ng itsura, body measurement, height, weight, pati yung slimness, pareho. So, their only difference is on fingerprint. So, saan sila ma-identify? Na ma-differentiate? Through their fingerprint. Zoology is the study of animals. Psychology, the study of behavior and mind processes. Sociology is the study of the society, the community as a whole. And other natural sciences may be applied. So, while in crime detection, chemistry, medicine, physics, mathematics, ballistics, photography, legal medicine, question document, examination may be utilized. This is called instrumentation. So, lahat ng ating criminalistics. Criminalistics ang tawag dyan sa question document, dactyloscopy or fingerprint, ballistics, photography, legal medicine, DNA, lie detection. Those are all instrumentation. Bakit instrumentation? Because we use instruments to determine the truth, di ba? Kaya instrumentation. We use machines, instruments. Criminology is a social science. Inasmuch as crime is is a social creation and it exists in a society, being a social phenomena, its study must be considered a part of social science. Going back with the definition of crime itself, crime is a social phenomena. So it follows that if it is a social phenomena, it is a social science because we study its existence in this society. So criminology is dynamic. Criminology changes as the social conditions changes. It is concomitant with the advancement of other sciences that have been applied to it. So when we say dynamic, it is also changing as time passes and as the community advances, develops, criminology should also cope up. So dapat nagbabago rin yan. Alangan naman na yung crime noon is yung investigator ng crime noon is siya pa rin yung mga investigator ng crime ngayon. Siyempre, magiging obsolete na yung mga investigators noon. Because why? Crime before is far left by the types of crimes nowadays. Nag-advance na yung mga klase ng crime. Ang crime noong araw is theft, robbery, homicide, murder, mga ganyan lang, di ba? So habang dumadaan yung panahon, nag-advance na yung crime. So nowadays, mayroon na tayong mga cyber crimes, di ba? Tumatalino na yung mga kriminal. Tumatalino na sila kung paano gumawa ng crime na hindi sila mahuhuli. So, yan. So, kung tumatalino na yung criminal, dapat mas matalino ang criminologists, ang mga law enforcers, di ba? That is why criminology must be dynamic. Dapat it changes with time and circumstances or social conditions. Criminology is nationalistic. The study of crimes must be in relation with existing criminal law within a territory or a country. Finally, the question as to whether an act is a crime is dependent on the criminal law of the country. So, nationalistic, when we say nationalistic, it must be applicable to the whole of the Philippines. So, hindi lang siya applicable sa isang province lang, sa isang city lang. Kung applicable sa isang city lang, it's a no-no. Dapat applicable sa buong Pilipinas. Parang yung Philippine National Police, di ba? Bakit Philippine National Police? Bakit national? Kasi kung pulis siya ng Baguio, kahit saan man siya mapunta, kahit mapunta sa Mindanao, pulis pa rin yan. Philippine National Police. So, criminology is nationalistic. It must study crimes in the whole Philippines. So, to brief, the nature of criminology are as follows. It is an applied science, a social science, it is dynamic, and it is nationalistic. So we now move with the brief history of criminology. Criminology as a social science. Not too long ago, criminology separated from its mother discipline, sociology. So sociology, once again, is the study of society. And under sociology, we have criminology, victimology, and so on and so forth. And criminology separated from sociology. It has since developed habits and methods of thinking about crime and criminal behavior that are uniquely its own. So we have here brief history of criminology. We have the demonic perspective during the Middle Ages from 1200 BC to 1600s. Hindi pala siya BC. From 1200s to 1600s. We also have the classical school in the late 1700s and the early 1800s. Follows the neoclassical school emerged between 1880s and 1920s and is still with us today. So, neoclassical school. Hanggang ngayon, present pa rin siya. Positivism, the mid-1800s and early 1900s. And the sociological criminology from mid-1800s till now. So, these were the brief history of schools who studied criminology. First is the demonic perspective. It is not surprising that any discussion of the existence of evil behavior in the world would begin with religious explanation. So, kumbaga yung Bible ang basihan natin ng paghatol whether or not it, a certain person's act is a crime or not. So, we have here two models under demonic perspective, the temptation model and the possession model. So when we say temptation model, from the root word tempt, I am being tempted, mga ganyan. Book of Matthew, chapter 26, verse 41 of the New International Version. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. So our spirit is strong to move away from temptations. However, the body is weak. So the following are the explanations of the temptation model. People are weak. Temptations to sin are impossible to avoid. No matter how tempting the devil's offers might be, the individual always retains the ability to refuse sin. So, dito na yung papasok yung strong spirit to refuse sin. Good force offers rewards and frequently promises spiritual aid to help the beleaguered individual resist the devil's temptation. So, goodwill should have a good reward para makaiwas sa temptations. So, one example of a reward is after our death, we will be going to heaven. Pero pagka makasalanan tayo, we will be going to hell. So, this model has deterrent component. The threat of hellfire or other eternal punishment for those who choose to do evil. So pagka masama tayo, we are sinners, saan tayo pupunta? Sa imperyo ni Satan. So, temptation model, how to treat criminals and other punishment. So, how do we treat tempted offenders? How do we cure temptation? Under the temptation model, this is how we cure offenders. Through public humiliation. When we say public humiliation, pinapahiya natin yung offender sa public. So, one example of public humiliation is may magsusulat ng sa kokonban, criminal ako, huwag tuladan, tapos ipapalkat mo dun sa criminal, tapos saka mo paglalakarin along the community, along the street, yan, public humiliation yan, huwag akong tularan. And banishment, when you say banishment, this is a type of punishment wherein the offender will be sent away from where he had committed the crime. Kumbaga, itatapon siya away from the place kung saan siya nag-commit ng crime. Parang banishment. So, kung school-related, is parang blacklist naman. Sa school yan. Pagka sa school, bad ang record mo, parati kang may inaaway, sinusumbatan mo yung mga instructor mo, hindi ka sumusunod sa rules and regulation ng school, right there and then, pwede kang i-blacklist ng school. So, pagka na-blacklist ka sa school, you have no choice but to enroll or transfer school, di ba? So, lilipat ka. Aalis ka dun sa original na school mo. Ganyan ang banishment. You will be barred from entering the community kung saan ka gumawa ng krimen. So, banishment. Public humiliation and banishment were frequently used by the religious societies as ways of controlling their deviant populations. So, yun yung mga ginagamit ng mga sinaunang tao to control deviant population. For serious deviant, capital punishment would be a final solution. So, when we say serious deviance or serious yung offense na kanilang nagawa, such as murder, the capital punishment would be the final solution. So, what are the capital punishment before? Meron din tayong death penalty even before. Through hanging, di ba? Sa mga western movies, may nakikita kayo. Public hanging. Hinahang in public yung offenders. So, that is an example of capital punishment. Second model is the possession model, which explains or which states that once possessed by an evil spirit, the person is no longer responsible for his or her act. The devil now has taken control of the individual's mind and body, resulting in evil behavior. So, meaning, if a person is possessed, it is the act of the evil spirit, but not act of the person possessed. So, possession model, how do we treat possessed criminals? One way of curing possessed criminal is through exorcism. Exorcism is a religious ritual aimed at jettisoning the unclean spirit from the body. So, exorcism. What do we call the person performing exorcism? We call him exorcist. Exorcist. So, meron tayong horror movie nun na mga related sa exorcism. Pwede nyo panoorin para mas maintindihan nyo kung paano nag-work ang exorcism. So, exorcism today. Exorcism was applicable before, mga 1900s yan. But nowadays, that is a no-no. Hindi na siya applicable nowadays. We have here an example of an exorcism that failed. Mario Garcia ended up in jail on charges of puncturing his mother-in-law's esophagus with a pair of crucifixes. Crucifixes are cross design yung ginagamit sa papalayas ng bad spirit, di ba? So, crucifixes. So, prior to the incident, the mother-in-law display of erratic behavior. So, yung mother-in-law ni Mario Garcia displayed an erratic behavior. Kumbaga, unusual na yung kanyang mga movement. Kakaiba na. Kumbaga, nagbago. So, Mario Garcia did exorcism on her mother-in-law. However, the problem is the hospital had suggested psychiatric treatment for the mother-in-law. So, nung tinakbo sa hospital yung mother-in-law, tapos based on the based on the suggestion of the hospital, they need psychiatric treatment for the mother-in-law. So, means to say, medyo nabaliw yung mother-in-law. So, hindi siya nasaniban, but medyo nabaliw siya. Parang ganyan. So, what she needs is a psychiatric treatment. So, Garcia had the woman lie down on a bed, while the woman's son, her husband, Garcia's wife, and 3 young children, pati yung anak nila, contributed prayers for support. Garcia showed not 1 but 2-inch steel crucifixes into his mother-in-law's mouth. So, 8 inches crucifixes ang ipinasok sa mouth ng mother-in-law. The crosses went deep enough down her throat to pierce her esophagus. So, nabutas yung esophagus. Police who were called to the scene found the woman bleeding profusely. So, when you say bleeding profusely, continuously ang blood flow niya from the mouth on Garcia's front porch, with Garcia shouting, "The devil is inside her, the devil is inside her." So, nasa loob niya yung demonyo. Garcia was arrested for assault with a dangerous weapon and taken under psychiatric observation. Police are in agreement with Garcia's family that Mario did not act with intent to harm. So, wala yung criminal intent to harm her mother-in-law. I've seen suspects who thought they had psychic powers, sabi ng police, but never one that had a family who believed it too. So, marami na siyang nakakitang mga offender na ang tingin nila sa sarili nila ay parang may psychic power sila. Pero never pa silang nakakita ng tao na naniniwalang may psychic power siya, and at the same time, may mga naniniwala din sa kanya na family member niya pa. So, that is exorcism today. Hindi na siya applicable. Excuse me. Is there a place for a demonic perspective in contemporary criminology? Surprisingly, religious models are adhered to by many. Criminal justice officials in the United States have paid Satanism little mind until the mid-1980s. So hanggang 1980s lang yung Satanism. 1980s onwards, wala nang Satanism sa United States. This was the case in the 1980s and 1990s as a satanic panic swept the United States. So dumami yung kaso ng satanist on 1980s to 1990s. So what is satanist? Satanist, at that point, the country was swept by an epidemic of allegations that murders, sexual or ritual abuse of children, and ritual sacrifice of animals were commonplace activities among Satanists. So, meron tayong kulto, kumbaga, noon, na yung mga Satanist ay kailangang magsakripisyo ng mga hayop o tao para masalba yung buong kulto nila. So, yan yung paniniwala nila. Diba? And even biblically, meron din tayong ganito, pero hindi siya Satanist. Wherein, the brothers Cain and Abel, di ba? Can you recall that? The story of Cain and Abel? The son of Adam and Eve. Abel is a shepherd. Siya yung nag-take charge ng mga sheep ng family nila, while Cain is a farmer. And during occasion, these two brothers are offering some of their harvest, parang yung ani or sheep, to the Lord. Pero sa sacrifice ni Cain is vegetable from his farm, tapos yung kay Abel naman is sheep. Tapos mas napansin ni Cain na parang mas pabor yata si Jesus kay Cain. Bakit mas successful siya? Ganyan, di ba? So kinainggitan niya, pinatay niya yung kanyang brother. Bakit na tayo napunta dyan? About sacrifice kasi. So, about sacrifice. So, moving on, we have the origin of classical school by Cesar Beccaria. It started in Europe in the late 1700s and early 1800s. So, criminal justice needed to be updated. Throughout Europe, the use of torture to secure confessions and forced self-incriminating testimony had been widespread. So, uso noong araw ang torture to have a confession and force self-incriminating testimony of a tortured suspect. So, classical school was against tortures. This school reacted against tortures. So, physical torture. Physical torture refers to the infliction of bodily pain to extort evidence or confession. Torture employed devices such as the rack to stretch the victim's joint to breaking point. So, si Lapu-Lapu rin noon, di ba? Doon sa movie ni Lapu-Lapu, pinakita na pinaghilaan yung ng kalabaw, group of kalabaw yung kanyang body parts up to breaking point. So, tinali yung kamay niya sa one group ng baka, tapos tinali naman yung paa sa other group. The thumb screw, the boot, which crush the foot. So meron ding nagka-crush ng foot as means of torture. Heavy weights that crush the whole body. So minamaso yung katawan. The Iron Maiden. Kumbaga, Iron Maiden, ito naman yung ipapasuot sa offender. Iron, Iron Maiden refers to cage shaped like human being with interior spikes to spare the occupant. So, meron pa siyang interior spikes. Kumbaga, tinutusok pa yung uh, inilalagay doon sa loob ng Iron Maiden. So, the classical school was not interested in studying criminals. Hindi niya kailangang i-study yung body physics ng criminals. Hindi nila gusto yon. What they concentrated on is the lawmaking and legal processing. So, yun yung pinag-aralan nila. Pinag-aralan nila, lawmaking and legal processing. So, crime, as the classical school believed, was activity engaged in out of total free will. So, kumbaga, yung tao na gumagawa ng krimen, ginawa nila yun based on total free will. That's according to the classical theory. So, meron silang free will. They have the free will to choose to commit the crime or to choose not to. Yan. And that individuals weigh the consequences of their actions. So, kumbaga, inassess nila yung consequence ng action nila. Kung nakita nila na mas mabigat, kung nakita nila na napakalaki ng gains, ng magiging gains nila if they commit that crime compared to the penalty, kung nahuli sila, then most likely gagawin nila yung krimen. Kasi napakalaki ng agwat, di ba? So napakalaki ng kikitain nila compared sa, kung ginawa nila yung crime compared sa kung mahuli sila, malit lang din naman yung penalty kahit na mahuli sila. Parang ganyan. Punishment is made in order to deter people from committing crime. So why do we punish offenders? One purpose is to deter others. Based on classical theory, punishment will deter others from committing similar crime. So kung ano yung kasalanan ni Pedro, kung nagnakaw si Pedro, tapos nakikita ng public na pinaparusahan si Pedro, most likely, none among the public would also commit the same mistake. So, yan ang ibig sabihin na ng word na deter. The community will be deterred from committing the same crime. Punishment is made in order to deter people from committing crime, and not only that, punishment should be greater than the pleasure of criminal gains. So, dapat yung punishment mas mabigat sa gains ng crime. Otherwise, mas dadami ang criminal. Kasi pag ina-assess nila, ang gan-gan lang naman ng penalty pag nahuli ako. Ang laki-laki ng kita pag hindi ako nahuli at pag ginawa ko at hindi ako nahuli. O, di ba? So, magiging criminal na lang sila kung ganun. That's why there should be an adjustment on the punishment. Dapat mas mabigat yung punishment compared to the gains in committing the criminal act. So, the classical school of criminology is a broad label for a group of thinkers of crime and punishment in the 18th and 19th centuries. May tumatawag. Two famous writers during this classical period were Cesar Beccaria from 1738 to 1794 and Jeremy Bentham from 1748 to 1832. So we have here Cesar Beccaria from 1738 to 1794. People should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. So there should be no torture. Wala dapat torture. That's according to the classical school. The law should be codified. Yan yung mga gusto ng classical school. So, nung araw kasi, yung batas is unwritten, di ba? But classical school proposed the that the law should be codified. Means to say, dapat may sulat with punishment prescribed in advance. So, kung mayroong batas, dapat nakasulat na rin sa batas yung kaukulang penalty niya. So, yan. Punishment should be limited. So, dapat limited yung punishment. Less harsher. To only that is necessary to deter people from ever committing it again. So, wala dapat capital punishment. That's according to the classical school of Cesar Beccaria. Punishment should be severe, certain, and swift. So, for grave offenses, ang punishment should be severe, certain, and swift. Severity is the least important certainty. The next in importance is celerity or swiftness. Dapat yung punishment mabilis. So, pagka-commit ng crime ngayon, dapat na-punish na kagad siya. At mabilisan, hindi yung nagtatagal. Is about as equal in importance as certainty. So when we say certainty naman, dapat yung napapunish dito is the certain person who actually committed the crime, hindi other person, hindi innocent person. The criminal justice system should be organized around crime prevention. So the criminal justice system should concentrate on crime prevention. So after Cesar Beccaria, we have Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham believed that individuals weigh the probabilities of present and future pleasures against those of present and future pain. Kumbaga, Jeremy Bentham believed that persons assess based on their free will nga, di ba? Based on their free will, they assess the future pleasures. Kumbaga, kung gagawin ko to, ito yung magiging gains ko. Ganyan. Pag nahuli ako, ito yung magiging pain ko. Pero kung hindi ako nahuli, dodoble yung gains ko. Ganyan. So, people act as human calculators. They put all factors into a sort of mathematical equation to decide whether or not to commit an illegal activity. So, yun nga, babalik ulit tayo dun sa speaking of human calculator. So, i-assess muna nila. Pagka malaki yung kikitain pag ginawa nila yung krimen, gagawin nila. Tapos, dinagdag pa nila, ano kaya yung maging penalty ko pagka nahuli ako na gumagawa? Maliit lang. Kung maliit, gagawin talaga nila yung krimen. So punishment should be just, a bit in excess of the pleasures derived from an act and not any higher than that. So, itong sinabi ni Jeremy Bentham is comment niya to sa suggestion ni Cesar Vicaria. Kasi ang gusto ni Vicaria, punishment should be a lesser harsher. Pero, kung lesser harsher, sabi naman ni Bentham, kung lesser harsher ang magiging penalty, mas malaki yung gain, dapat yung punishment pag nahuli, mas mabigat sa gain ng crime na yon. So, yan naman kay Jeremy Bentham. Since punishment creates unhappiness, it can be justified if it prevents greater evil than it produces. So, syempre, pagka nahuli yung perpetrator, his punishment creates unhappiness on that perpetrator's part. Pero it can be justified. Okay lang naman na ma-penalize siya. Kaysa naman dumami yung magiging katulad niya. Diba? It prevents greater evil. So, a little bit harsher punishment than the gain of the crime is better. So long as it creates or it prevents greater evil. Kung prevent niya yung greater evil, then okay. So, we have here a question. Does punishment really deter? Nakapag-deter ba ng crime ang punishment? What do you think? So, after the classical school, we have now the neoclassical school. So, it is a form of revisionism. So, revisionism, parang may revisions siya sa classical school. Neoclassical criminologists recognized that the free will approach had number of shortcomings. So, the neoclassical school assessed and studied and concluded that, hey, classical school, may mga shortcoming yung free will approach mo. Sabi niya, which we have to develop. So, meron siyang pinopose. Leading proponents were Gabriel Tarde and his student Raymond Saliles. So, sino ang author ng classical school? Cesar Vicaria and Jeremy Bentham. How about the neoclassical school? Gabriel Tarde and Raymond Saliles. Take note of that, guys. So, some behaviors are very irrational. Sabi ng neoclassical. Merong mga behavior na irrational. Walang rason, unreasonable. Meron din tayong self-defense or mistake of fact na hindi na-cover ng free will. So, not all persons were completely responsible for their own actions. Because in the classical school, perpetrators assessed based on their free will whether or not they will commit the crime or not, di ba? So, if they commit the crime, they have the sole responsibility for their own action. Pero dito naman kay neoclassical, no, not all persons were completely responsible for their own actions. Bakit? Because we have some exemption. So, positive treatment toward mental illness type explanation. So, means to say, self-defense, that is one exemption. Pagka may sumugod sa isang tao, tapos he acted on self-defense, during his defense, napatay niya yung aggressor. Do we need to penalize the the person who acted on self-defense? Di ba hindi? So, mistake in fact rin naman kung minsan. May person, merong court, let's say for example, na naghatol sa maling tao. So, ayan. Kumbaga, mistake of fact means to say, maling akala. Pero marami talagang namamatay sa maling akala. Mistake of fact. Akala ko siya yung gumawa. Akala ko siya yung offender. Tapos, meron din tayong yung mga taong may mental illness kaya sila gumagawa ng krimen. So, the question of the neoclassical school is it okay for us to punish this type of persons, the persons who acted on self-defense, and the persons who has mental illness? They are not covered by the free will. Wala silang free will, napilitan sila to do the same. Kumbaga wala o kaya wala silang option. 'Di ba? So ito naman yung point ng neoclassical. So dapat ang proposal niya dapat ma-exempt from liability yung mga persons who acted on self-defense and the persons who has mental illness. And this is true hanggang now, hanggang ngayon at present. Some of our laws are influenced by the neoclassical school. So dito sa RPC natin, meron tayong yung exempting circumstances, justifying circumstances, mitigating circumstances, and the aggravating circumstances. Wala pa kasi kayong criminal law eh, pero mapapag-aralan nyo yan on your book 1. Justifying circumstances ay exempting circumstances is referring to circumstances exempting the offender from both criminal and civil liability due that the circumstances therein are present. Tapos yung justifying circumstances naman, parang yung self-defense, defense of a stranger, defense of a relative, mga ganyan, are under justifying circumstances naman. Kumbaga, hindi sila mabibigyan ng criminal liability kahit nag-guilty sila, pero pwede silang magkaroon ng civil liability. Tapos yung mitigating circumstances naman, ito naman yung mga circumstances wherein it reduces the penalty for a certain act, provided that mitigating circumstances occurred. Naka-enumerate sa RPC nyo yung mitigating circumstances. And aggravating circumstances naman, aggravating, when we say aggravating, nagpapalala, these are circumstances which increases the penalty for a certain crime. Yan naman yung mga aggravating circumstances natin. So, positive treatment toward mental illness type explanation. So, mental illness. Pagka ang isang tao ay baliw, whatever na ginagawa niya, he is exempted from criminal liability. So, yan yung isang effect ng neoclassical. Bakit? Kasi the person is not in his proper mind. Kumbaga lucid interval, wala siya sa tamang state of mind niya. Kaya malas nyo lang kung kayo yung mabiktima ng baliw na ito. Tapos magsisik kayo ng justice, later on, madidismiss lang yung case against him, na-exempt siya. Kasi nga, mental illness. Baliw talaga siya. Maraming ganito, di ba? Kung minsan nakakasalubog nyo sa kalsada, baliw na may hawak pang bato tapos nananakit. Pag nabiktima ka nun, hindi ka makakasik ng justice. Yan, hindi, kasi exempted siya from criminal liability. So, some behaviors, tapos na tayo dyan. So, what are the categorization of motives? So, understanding homicide, the accurate determination of motive in any crime is highly subjective. Social scientists have used several approaches to categorize motives, and one strategy to distinguish between instrumental and expressive motivation. So, study of motive is part of criminology. Instrumental motivation. Violent acts with instrumental motivations are directed at some valued goal beyond the act itself. So we have here an example, Menendez brothers. So the Menendez brothers may have killed their parents, so pinatay yung parents nila, for the instrumental goal of protecting themselves or collecting insurance payment. So we have here two motivations. Bakit kaya pinatay ni Menendez brothers yung kanilang parents? So ang isang motive is pwedeng self-defense. Siguro abusive yung parents nila, abusado, kaya napatay nila on self-defense. Or second motive is alam nilang may insurance yung parents nila. Pag namatay yung parents nila, automatic na sa kanila mabibigay yung insurance. So that's another motivation. Eric and Lyle Menendez were convicted of first-degree murder for the brutal shotgun slaying of their parents in Beverly Hills. Their defense was based on the abuse excuse. So, nahuli silang pinatay nila shinotgun nila yung kanilang parents. So, ano yung defense nila? We shotgun or we killed our parents because they were violently abusive. So, we acted on our defense para hindi na nila ulitin sa amin, para hindi na ulit kami mabiktima. Mga ganyan yung defense nila. But apparently, the motives range from the brothers' fear of their father's abuse. The apparent motives range from the brothers' fear of their father's abuse to their desire to collect $11 million worth of insurance. So, yun pala yung motive nila. Their desire to collect the 11 million insurance. Di ba? Imagine that. They killed their parents for that sum of money, 11 million. And we have the expressive motivation. Expressive actions are those motivated exclusively by rage, anger, frustration, or more generally, the heat of passion or self-defense, accidental homicides. So, alam niyo ba yung passion of obfuscation na sinabi? In our revised penal code, meron yan. Yung one example na binigay doon is yung asawa mo, nahuli mo yung asawa mo na may katalik na iba. So, out of obfuscation, napatay mo silang pareho. Di ba? Siyempre, nandilim yung paningin mo. That is an example of a exempting circumstance. So, wala siyang criminal liability, but pwede siya magkaroon ng civil liability, especially kung may anak sila. So, that is one of the influence of our neoclassical. So, except na from criminal liability yung mga yon. Yung baliw, who acted from self-defense, and who acted on passion of obfuscation. Naka-enumerate yun sa revised penal code, yung mga mitigating circumstances, justifying circumstances, and exempting circumstances. So based on the universal crime rate supplementary homicide reports classification of motives, most of our homicide cases were a result of arguments. So 53% ng homicide cases, ang dahilan niyan is pagtatalo, arguments. So whenever there is an argument, kaya nga umiwas na lang kayo sa argument, baka mamaya may uminit sa inyo, mapatay nyo o makapatay kayo. Kawawa. Kawawa kayong pareho. Kasi kawawa yung napatay, kawawa rin naman yung nakapatay. Mahuhuli, makukulong. Participation in other felony crimes, especially robbery and drug offenses. So lahat ng nagpa-participate sa robbery and gang, pwedeng mabiktima ng, they have high percentage of homicide cases. Tapos, youth gang activities. So, pag nag-member ka pa ng mga gang, you have also a percentage of risk, homicide risk. Tapos, browse. Ito yung mga bugbugan, away. Browse under influence of drugs or alcohol. 4% yan sa mga homicide cases. And miscellaneous situations such as killings by babysitters, gangland slaying, and sniper attacks, only 1% motive. So, guys, kayo kung minsan, kung iinom kayo, huwag kayong totally na maglalasing. Baka hindi nyo mabantayan yung surroundings nyo. Mayroon palang mga violent na lasinggo sa tabi nyo. Kayo pa mapagtripan. Also, umiwas kayo sa mga gang. Walang magandang maidudulot yan. Participation in robbery and drug offenses. Iwasan nyo yan. And as much as possible, iwasan nyo rin ang makipag-argument. So, we have also victim-offender relationship. 3 types of relationship are often identified. So, out of 100% victimization, we have here familial, especially spouses and siblings. 22% are victim offender related. Tapos sa mga acquaintances such as friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, neighbors, and co-workers, yan yung may pinakamaraming percentage ng victim offender. Kumbaga, 57% is girlfriend niya yung victim or friend niya yung nambiktima sa kanya or coworker niya yung nambiktima sa kanya or neighbor niya yung nambiktima sa kanya. Ganyan. Tapos 21% strangers yung victim at saka yung offender. So, enough with that background. Positivist. So, after the neoclassical school, we have the positivist school in criminology. The demand of facts for scientific proof or the determinism. There are body and mind differences between people. So, merong differences between people. Yan naman ang sinasabi ni positivist school. Punishment should fit the individual criminal, not the crime. So, dapat ang napapunish is yung criminal, hindi yung crime. Intermediate sentencing. So, dapat yung sentencing is mayroon pang subdivision. So, na-apply din natin to. Meron yung maximum range, medium range of penalty, and minimum range of penalty. So, desperate sentencing and include also parole. Dapat meron ding parole sa mga mahatulan na guilty. Criminals can be treated, rehabilitated, or corrected. If not, then they are incurable and should be put to death. So, yun naman ang sabi ni positivist school. They are more on the future of our criminal. So, dapat yung mga criminal is, dapat they should be treated. Dapat ma-cure yung mga criminal. Dapat ma-rehabilitate sila. Dapat ma-correct. So, yan naman ang sa positivist school. Dapat may parole. Dapat may conduct good time allowance for the offenders. Dapat may probation sila. Yung mga convicts. Yan ang positivist school. So, we have here the fundamental assumptions. The basic determinants of human behavior are genetically based. Observed gender and racial differences in rates and types of criminality may be at least partially the result of biological differences between sexes and racially distinct groups. So, these are fundamental assumptions on the occurrence of crime. So, kaya may crime kasi may difference between sexes. Kaya may crime because there are differences between racial o kaya may racial discrimination between the black and white and the yellows. So, sa positivist school in criminology, most people believe the leading figure of positivist criminology, often called father of criminology. So, we have now here Cesar Lombroso. He is the father of criminology. Take note of this. Who is the father of criminology? Cesar.
Cesar
Cesar
Lombroso.
Lembroso.
Cesar Lembroso.
Okay na, okay na. Sige, thank you.
Cesar Lombroso.
Okay na. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On Criminal Man was first put together in 1861 and made the following points. So, these are the underlying logic of the positivist theory. We have here the atavism and defective genes as causes of mental and physical inferiority. This mental and physical inferiority likewise causes one person's inability to learn and follow legal rules. So kung yung person ay hindi nakakaintindi ng batas, it follows that that person would commit crime. So ito naman yung underlying logic ng positivist school. So kung baga hindi in this logic hindi sinasadya ng offender na nag-commit siya ng crime. So we have here sociological theories of crime. Search for factors outside the individual, socialization, subcultural membership, and social class. So whenever we speak of the word sociological or social, it pertains to the community, the society, the social class. So outside of the individual, hindi lang siya individual. It pertains to the social. So we have here the sociological theories of crime. Kumbaga, these are theories of crime pertaining to the society as causes of crime. So explains crime by reference to the institutional structure of society. So we have here the divisions of criminology according to Sutherland. So criminology is the attempt at the scientific analysis of the causes of crime, di ba? Kanina napag-usapan natin to. What is crime according to Sutherland? What is crime? Criminology. What is criminology? According to Sutherland, It deals with the study of the causes of crime. So yan, criminal etiology. Second is it deals with the legalistic point of view for the breaking of law. Yan, breaking of law. So sociology of law naman yan. And third is criminology deals with the study of the reaction towards the breaking of law. So ano yung dapat na reaction towards the breaking of law? Penology. Penology, penalty, the study of penalty, which is concerned with the control and prevention of ano ba to? Crime and treatment of offenders. So, ladies and gentlemen, time check is already 11:59. Do you have question before we end this session? About the question about the discussion. May question ba kayo that needs clarification?
Wala na po, sir.
Wala po.
Wala po, sir.
How about, may question ba kayo about this course? Kung walang question, how about reaction, comments, suggestion? Baka may suggestion kayo para mas maganda yung discussion natin. Nahiya kayong magtanong?
Sir,
O, sige. Tanong.
sir po.
Ha? What's the question?
Sir, kinig po.
Come again?
Kinig po ba ako?
Oo, dinig. Dinig.
Sir, paano po kaya yung mga yung mga baliw na kunyari, inatake ka ng baliw, tapos papatayin ka, tapos napatay mo yung baliw, di ba yung mga baliw, hindi naman sila subjected sa mga, parang exempted sila dun sa mga, sa mga punishment. What if mapatay mo sila kasi nagsa-self-defense ka? Ikaw ba, subjected ka pa rin sa mga, punishment?
Hindi rin. If you acted on self-defense, you are exempted from criminal liability. But take note that it is very difficult to prove self-defense. Kasi ang requirement ng self-defense is dapat you must be able to prove that uh, the threat is greater. Kumbaga, yung threat is greater than you. Tapos dapat ma-prove mo na aggressor siya, ikaw hindi. Tapos you have no option but to kill that person to prevent further threats or risk. Ganun kasi yun eh. So kung sakaling bato yung hawak ng baliw, di ba? Tapos ikaw baril, ibabato niya pa lang yung bato, binaril mo siya. Tapos ang defense mo self defense, medyo magkakandak pa sila ng investigasyon niyan. Malabong makapasok sa self defense pagka ganun. Pero kung siya yung may baril, tapos ikaw yung may bato, tapos nag-succeed ka na napatay mo siya, mas ano pa yun, mas madaling paniwalaan ng judge kasi. Mahirap kasi minsan i-prove yung elements ng self-defense. Yun naman. But kung purely na talaga na self-defense yun, you are exempted. Did I satisfy your question?
Yes po, salamat po.
Any other question?
Sir,
Oh,
malinaw po.
oo, malinaw.
Sir, paano naman pagka yung for example is, ayun nga sir, yung may threat sa buhay mo. Halimbawa, parehas kayong may baril sir, tas tinutukan ka lang niya, tas siya nabaril mo. Paano yun sir? Pero may intention siya na sir na barilin ka, kaso naunahan mo lang. May laban po ba sa ganun?
Ano kasi yan eh. Depende na kasi yan sa court. Marami kasi tayong i-consider dyan. Dapat masatisfy mo yung court na damang-dama mo talaga na halos papatayin ka na niya. And swerte mo kasi naunahan mo siya. So, mga ganyan. Pwede yan. Pwede. Pero most likely, mas madaling i-prove na self-defense, yung naunang pumutok yung kalaban mo tapos nag-return fire ka, mas madaling i-prove yung mga ganun. Pero yung parang ilalabas niya pa lang tapos naunahan ko siya, medyo maraming investigasyon pang maikakandak niyan to determine really if self-defense is present. Are you satisfied?
Sir, yes, sir.
In proving self-defense kasi, magiging reverse trial. Sa court, ang process ng trial during court is yung prosecutor ang magpresent ng evidence niya, ng witnesses niya. Tapos, saka naman magko-cross-examine yung defense. Tapos, after that, magre-redirect yung prosecutor, tapos magre-recross yung defense. Tapos after that, defense will also present his or her witnesses and evidence. Tapos, i-cross-examine naman ng prosecutor. Tapos, i-redirect naman ng defense and at the same time, i-recross ng prosecutor ulit. Ganun yung flow niya. Pero, sa kaso ng mga self-defense, ang maunang magpre-present dyan is yung defense. Parang yung nag-claim ng self-defense, siya ang unang magpre-present. Siya ang unang magpo-prove na kumpleto yung elements ng self-defense beyond reasonable doubt. So when we say beyond reasonable doubt, walang kaduda-duda na self-defense nga yan. Ganyan kasi ang requirement sa criminal case. Proof beyond reasonable doubt, ang quantum of evidence. So walang kaduda-duda na self-defense nga yan in cases of self-defense. Pero in cases of criminal cases, walang kaduda-duda or proof beyond reasonable doubt that the person to be arrested is actually the person who did the crime. So yan, ang ganyan, mahirap i-prove talaga ang quantum of evidence ng criminal case. Proof beyond reasonable doubt ang quantum niya kasi. Unlike civil cases and administrative cases, ang quantum of evidence nila is, sa civil cases, preponderance of evidence. Paramihan ng ebidensya, yan ang quantum of evidence. So yan ang evidence na kailangan. Kung most likely, kung sino mas maraming ebidensya, siya ang panalo. Ganyan sa civil case. Tapos sa admin case naman, substantial evidence ang kailangan dyan. Kahit na isang evidence lang, enough na yan to win the case. Substantial evidence. So, yan naman yung mga difference ng quantum of evidence from criminal case to civil case to admin case. Did I satisfy you? Guys, andyan pa ba kayo?
Opo.
Opo, sir.
Apa, sir?
Yes, sir.
Time check, 12:07. Do you still have questions?
Sir.
Wala na po.
Oh, ano, wala na? Mukhang may pahabol pa yung isa. Ano, may question? Wala na?
Sir, wala na po.
Okay, thank you very much. There being no
Sir, may
question.
attendance pa po ba?
Thank
you po.
Kindly pwede mag-share screen ka tapos i-send mo sa messenger natin para lahat tayo nakakita. Okay lang ba?
Pa-share screen lang, sir.
Ha?
Yung bago po ulit attendance, sir. Baka po kasi po yung iba ay hindi po naipasama sa una.
Oo nga eh. Yun ang advantage niya. At least kung may nakahabol, pwede natin consider.
Kaya nga po, sir.
Sige, kuha ka na ng screenshot mo. Nakakuha ka na? Ay, stop sharing ko muna.
Sir, naka-cellphone lang po ako, sir.
Who would like to do the checking of attendance? Sino mag-check ng attendance? Uy, wala na. Ang dami nang nag-log out, oh. 62 na lang natira. Sige, okay lang. Kung mayroon mang na-absent, I let him explain na lang. So, we are adjourned. You are all excused. Thank you very much. See you next meeting. And any instruction
Thank you,
will be
sir.
posted. Yes, any instruction will be posted on our Google Classroom or on our FB Messenger. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Thank
sir.
you po.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.